Alright, y'all, this is the expert course. Let's get right into it. Here we're learning about button dashing. So you can do double tap forward and back to dash, or you can just do A and B and make it a little bit more easier to time, especially when you're dashing in a combo. It's saying that you get a little bit of your dash momentum. There's a regular jump, dash jump, dash guard. Oh, this is a very useful training mission. The other name for this is controlling space, or poking. This is the part of the game where they start to teach you footsies without actually calling it footsies. Attacking whiffs, this is called whiff punishing. You actually have to have good spacing here. They actually have to know the spacing, both of my attack and theirs. So that's what that lesson's really teaching you, is to learn the right spacings to force other players or other characters' attacks to whiff, but also know the spacings that your attacks will hit at. Teaching anti-airs is very crucial. It's very often the 3C input. Another thing to note is that these anti-airs will very often have head or anti-air invulnerability, so essentially jump-ins have a harder time hitting them, essentially rewarding you for making the right decision even if you're a little bit late. Attacking repeatedly, regardless of whether or not the attacks are guarded against, is called rushing, or also a block string. It's saying it's a good block string because it puts you kind of far away. I'm not sure if it's safe though. Confirming hits involves being something I should mention when it comes to attacks being safe or not. Like that attack being safe and this attack not being safe when it's blocked. In order to figure this out, you can either use the dummy in training mode to have them do certain attacks as reversals, or you can just look at their so if you do that, you can actually just have them block all attacks and then use one of their fastest attacks as a reversal, or the fastest one that's within range of you. And essentially, you know, if you get hit when you try to block after you do, say, this attack on after that attack gets blocked, then you'll know, you know, if you get hit that it's unsafe, and if you don't get hit that it's safe. Again, depending on the move that you choose as a reversal. So if you make 5C, oh, that's interesting that you can fail this. If you make 5C your reversal, then you're not really going to be able to tell if it's safe. But if you make 5A or 2A the reversal, then you might have a better chance, or maybe even this attack. Like, it just depends on what the move you're testing is, and what the frame data of the reversal that you went with is. Another option is to just go on Discord or Mizumi and just look at the frame data that's recorded for each character, although I'm not sure that at the time of this recording that the frame data for Under Night Clear is available yet, and it's going to be a little bit different from Under Night ST, so keep that in mind. So with that all said, let's try doing some hit confirms. Oops. Almost had it. Oops. They really make sure that you know it. Priority moves. This is really talking about low crush more than anything. So I think it's less about priority and more about this move, this 3C with Orie, having a low crush, meaning that it doesn't have a hurt box. Basically, the hurt box is it ignores low attacks, so it ignores low hitboxes. It's kind of like in Kung Fu movies when one character does a sweep and the other character does like a jumping attack or something, or some overhead-looking attack. Except in this case, that overhead attack would always hit. But the other thing about priority is that if you have two attacks that essentially have their hitboxes clash, and if one is a higher priority and it beats the hurt box of the opponent, that one will always win, just outright. So it's kind of illustrating two things at the same time there. The time it takes for you to move after attacking is referred to as a stun. Yeah. This is what I was talking about earlier with advantage, or frame advantage as it's called. You're in more, I guess, attack stun if you're, or not attack stun, you're in more recovery frames from doing an attack if it's a less safe attack or a stronger attack is usually how that goes. Stun span. Yeah, no, it's called frame advantage or frame disadvantage. It's another thing with the localization of this game is that it doesn't use the. Oh, this is another way to kind of check the frame data and at least see if like how much advantage there is. So here you can see that I'm holding up before the move is over, but the other character is landing a little bit before me, so they have a little bit of advantage. Here they have a lot of advantage. You can see how much sooner they jump. I do the increase standing. Yeah, I have a slight advantage. Actually, slight disadvantage. A lot of disadvantage. Let's see if slight advantage. Probably like 1 frame of advantage. Sometimes if a move has a lot of startup, like increase 5C there, you'll benefit on block from getting more frame advantage. Here it's saying to do reverse beats to reduce vulnerability. Okay, failed guard here. If I reverse beat into 2A, I recover a lot sooner from the 2A than I would from the 3C. Causes a pushback or a longer stun than usual. I don't know how I feel about the way they describe that. Oops. So yeah, when you get a counter hit, the opponent is vulnerable. They stay in hit stun for longer than they normally would, so you could do a bigger combo usually, or you at least have more time to react to them getting hit. Yeah, Infinite Worth Access, the shortcut version that I mentioned before, where you can only do if you have 2 bars and your health is red. If you're not in Vorpal when you do it, then you get grid broken immediately. Yeah, here they're mentioning that when you're creating a combo, you're going to be aware that you'll do less damage in the combo with each attack. Each subsequent attack, the more attacks that you have before that one. So you want to do your hardest hitting attacks towards the beginning of your combo, so you lose less of that damage to the damage scaling. And here it's talking about the bounces. So it's saying you can bounce 3 times there in one combo. Yeah, be wary of overhead attacks while in crouching guard. In competitive play, this isn't as much of a thing. You'll see why in a moment. Just to show that again, why this isn't really much of a thing in competitive play. And just to really drive this home, why it's not really a thing. Like, I failed the challenge there, but just to make a point, I'm gonna show it one more time why you don't really want to be doing this in combos. So I messed up the timing there, but my point is that overheads are so slow when you're playing this game offline that generally speaking, a good player is going to be able to block them in a block string 100% of the time. So you should not use overheads in the way that the game is showing you right there. For the most part, there are certain characters, maybe Wagner, that can do an overhead a lot faster than that, and it can be more of a reaction thing. But Yeah, just in general, don't try to rely too much on that. I didn't want to restart here. Go to the next challenge. So yeah, this is talking about crossing up. So as you can see, you can hold forward, saying forward or back. It's just saying that it has cross-up protection, like I mentioned before. Yeah, guard string or block string. So that time the game wasn't really showing the grid meter gain as normal because it was fixing it to player 2, probably to prevent me from doing a chain shift or something. Yeah, you'll be able to move before the opponent. I mentioned this earlier also. That's just showing that if you do a slow move after you recover from attacking a throw, you can essentially meaty your opponent because you have that much frame advantage. Again, I'm pretty sure it's 8 frames. Opponent will mix a normal attack with a throw, a normal attack with a throw after dashing. So yeah. So to do that, what I did was I did what's called the delay tech. So as soon as they do something, I'll wait a moment and then do a throw tech input. And what that does is, if I'm in hit stun, I don't do anything. Or rather, if I'm in block stun, I don't do anything because I'm in block stun. And if I just got thrown, then I'll tech the throw. So it's really just a matter of timing once the opponent reaches you. You see I'm pressing the button every time, but I'm just waiting. So the trick is to wait long enough to not enter the input until after you get thrown, because if you do it early and they attack you instead of throwing you, you just get hit. But you also don't want to wait too long, because if you wait too long, then you might end up getting hit, maybe by a poke, and then whiffing a throw. Well, you wouldn't get hit, you would block a hit and then maybe whiff a throw, and then they could counter hit combo you. Or you might wait so long that you just get thrown anyway, like because you waited too long and you missed the throw tech window. So yeah, moving throw, what it's saying here is not a moving throw, but a Cara throw. So you're doing a Cara cancel. So you're essentially canceling the startup of forward A and B, which is a dash, and then you're doing a piano input into the D button. So it's a little hard to do. You have to... There you go. You just have to do it faster. So if I don't Cara cancel it, I would get this, but if I do, it's a little bit more range. Just a little bit, but that can be enough to actually matter. Whiff blow attack. This is actually called an empty jump blow. They actually... weird. Yeah, it's an empty jump low. Essentially, you move like you're gonna do a jump in, but instead of doing a jump in, you just do a low attack. And you see there was a little bit of a delay because you would normally expect to block maybe multiple jump ins before you start blocking low. So obviously you can kind of beat that by just blocking low immediately, but it can be difficult to time, especially against certain characters where they can change their landing speed by doing like aerial attacks. So yeah, you can do double overheads off of an aerial assault, but not off a grounded one. Anyway, use dash to continue a guard stun by holding your attack and dashing in closer. Oh yeah, they're saying to do a micro dash so you can do something like this. Yeah, essentially you're stealing a turn by acting like you're gonna do another attack, but using the time to get closer so you can repeat your block string. Just to kind of pressure your opponent. They're essentially saying once people start reacting to that antic, you can kind of beat their reaction by doing a slower move that would punish their attempts at interrupting your block string. This is your guard cancel. This is when you want them to get off of you. You're spending Oracle to do it. This is punishing an unsafe move. So if someone does sweep, you can just do 2A. Short counter attacks. Like the lesson from before is essentially when you recognize certain slow moves with a lot of recovery time, you should make sure that you're able to punish them reliably. Just making sure you're doing combos to punish, not just pokes. Yeah, that's just saying that you can take advantage of the time stop when there are EX or super moves on the screen. At least the startup. Now here's the part where they're explaining that you shouldn't just necessarily always go to the center of the screen when you're recovering. Oh, it was that recover backward on a ground or emergency recovery, your grid gauge will go down because you're losing ground basically. It's like quote unquote bad footsies because you're not able to back away from poking. I don't know what this means. What the hell is emergency recovery? What? Huh. I don't really know what I did differently. Oh, I guess that's when you wait. Alright, that's all. There's one for recovering in the air, one for recovering as soon as you hit the ground, and another for essentially waiting, but not like as long as you could wait. Okizeme or wake up attacks. That's I wouldn't call it a wake up attacks. Because a wake up attack is more something that you would do like as you're waking up. So I feel like that's more of a description of reversals, like that phrasing. Yeah, this is saying just do a meaty attack. There, I screwed up the timing. I was too slow. So yeah, a meaty attack is when you start an attack with the timing such that the startup frames of the attack happen while the opponent is still recovering. So as soon as they finish getting up from being knocked down, they have to immediately be either doing an attack with an invulnerable startup or a reversal, or rather an invulnerable reversal, or they need to be backdashing or blocking. Anything else and they just get hit by your meaty attack. Cannot properly attack against an Okie, right? So you want to just block. So yeah, that's how you beat Okie, is you just block. Or you can do a reversal. I can't do it. The hard input on the hitbox, but there it is. There it is again. I'm essentially mashing it to get try to get the timing. Because it's hard to kind of time a reversal, so normally you wouldn't mash it. Because the game will kind of know that you're trying to do that and not just a quarter circle forward, which wouldn't have the invulnerability. Of course, you got to be a little bit careful when it comes to mashing a reversal if you're playing against someone sitting next to you, because they might be able to see you or hear you pressing the buttons and then kind of react to that, so that gets a bit metagamey. Yeah, this is the other option that I mentioned. You would just mash on the backdash. So even if you don't physically get out of the way of the attack, you still have some invulnerability frames at the beginning of the backdash. So it still works in the corner. It's just if they read your backdash, then you can get punished pretty badly. And yeah, you can do a veil off as a reversal. Break period is rather short if A is used to guard break.
Success.
Just a random kind of tip. Jump attacks blocked by a shield can't be cancelled. So what I said before was that you can do an aerial block string, so you have a series of overheads to block, but if you shield the first string, or if you shield any aerial attack, then you can't cancel out of that attack. And the stun upon landing is longer, so essentially if you shield an aerial move while you're well, not necessarily just while you're grounded, but when you shield an aerial move, you can punish it in a way that you normally might not be able to. Like, you're essentially guaranteed the punish. And you can green shield if you do it while you're in block stun. Let me just retry that. Yeah, you get rewarded with a lot of grid, but there's a penalty if you screwed up. It's either with that when I shielded late and I didn't shield anything. So yeah, it's a bit of a risk you're taking. You're wagering some of your grid meter on there being another attack. If you guess wrong, you just lose a lot. So that's what I was talking about. It's part of what I was talking about before when I said that the grid meter is why this game is so awesome. It's because you're constantly having that one extra layer of mechanics to be mindful of as you're playing the game. Yeah, this is mentioning the chain shift cancel for the first time. They're saying that you can't do it on reversal attacks, invulnerable reversals. And here they mentioned that you get less super meter if you chain shift cancel compared to a regular chain shift. It's kind of similar to burst in games like Guilty Gear, where if you gold burst, which is in neutral without canceling anything, you gain a bunch of meter if you land a hit. Whereas if you burst while you're in hit stun, you either don't gain any meter or you don't gain as much meter. So yeah, they're saying you just do a chain shift in neutral if you just want to build meter. So you kind of just gotta decide how you want to use it. If you're trying to gain meter, then I would recommend doing your chain shift as a reversal move after you get knocked down. That way you can kind of interrupt your opponent's Okie, so you can actually just see what they're doing. So when you're knocked down, you just start mashing the D button, then you can tell, like, if they're in the middle of a throw, for example, then you can tech the throw, or if they're doing an attack, then you can just start buffering an invulnerable attack while you're in that time freeze of the chain shift, and you'll just automatically hit them. And that attack might even be like a super if it has an invulnerable startup. So yeah, this is saying that you can do an unsafe attack And you can make an unsafe attack safe by doing a chain shift cancel. And here you can kind of has to whip, okay. So if you do that with a projectile, you get to use the projectile to kind of cover your approach. It's very mean. Veil off hit effects. Yeah, if you land a veil off, it forces a grid break. But it's also very unsafe if it gets blocked, so you gotta be careful with that. So yeah, Vorpal buffs you by 10 and Veil Off buffs you by 20%. So if you do Veil Off while you're in Vorpal, then you get a 30% damage boost, which is very, very good. So yeah, in Vorpal, this attack does 198. In Vorpal, after gaining Veil Off, does 234, which is a lot. Crosscast Veil Off is essentially you cancel out of an attack with the Veil Off shortcut. And you get to do a special version of the Veil Off. At least for the duration of that combo, you get the ability to end your Veil Off with Infinite Worth Axis just by pressing the Veil Off command again. So you can end your own guard break with, or grid break with Veil Off. This is something that I actually forgot. So I'm glad I'm going through this tutorial again. And yeah, that is it for the expert course. The next one is going to be the veteran course. So tune in next time for that.